Good morning, everyone. It is 10 o'clock. Welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Committee. I do first of all have to read out the webcast introduction, the virtual web meeting introduction. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or another use by such third parties. Please could I also remind members of the public who have registered to speak that they will be admitted to the meeting at the appropriate time. Please also be aware that if any technical difficulties interrupt the meeting that cannot be overcome, I may need to adjourn the meeting. Now, the first item on the agenda is the application for 191 High Road. I'm conscious that we have got people present for the second item. Can I just ask about the procedure? Do they sit in on this or are they put into the waiting room?
Councillor, it's a public meeting, so if they wish they can sit in, or if they prefer they can, Laura can put them out.
So looking at those who are present for the Fiddlers, Hamlet one, do you wish to stay in the meeting or do you wish to be put into the waiting room? Sorry, you're on mute.
I'm happy to watch. So yeah, yeah, because otherwise I'll disappear off and then I won't be ready for the next one. So
right, and the same with Guy Wilson.
This is my one. I might want to be on it. So
Guy Wilson is for the Loughton 191.
Yeah. Okay. Right, so if we go on to item 2 on the agenda, apologies for absence.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? Fire has been reported in the building. As a precaution.
Right, apologies for that. That's obviously something that's coming through from the civic offices themselves. So apologies for absence.
Everybody's in attendance, Chairman, so there's no apologies.
Thank you. And any declarations of interest? No, thank you. I will just read through an outline of the procedures for the meeting, but they are set out on pages 5 and 6 of the agenda. As has already been said, this is being webcast. The meeting, we have got several people present from the applicants, but also from council officers and the members who are sitting on this panel. We've got 4 members of the council here this morning, but only 3 of us will be sitting on this agenda item. So myself as chairman, Councillor Mary Sartin, Councillor Paul Kesker and Councillor Stephen Heather will be hearing this item. Councillor Ian Hadley is also present, but will not be sitting and will not be discussing this first item. Having said that, if we do lose internet contact with the first 3 of us, Councillor Headley is sitting and listening and will then be able to step in to take the 3rd place. So the procedure, we have present the applicant who I believe for this one is Mr. Guy Wilson from the 191 High Road, Loughton. Could you just perhaps, Mr. Wilson, introduce the person with you so we know who is present?
And this is Caroline Dent. She's my partner, and we're doing this as hopefully doing this as a joint venture together. So,
thank you. And then from officers, we've got Rosie Pereira as our legal advisor. From licensing, we have having problems with my eyesight. There's Handran Ibrahim for licensing department, but also present is David King, who's the licensing manager. And from Democratic Services, Rebecca Perrin and Laura Kerman. We've also got a licensing officer who is shown as being a webcast officer who's being shown as webcast on the screen. We've also got sitting in on the meeting others who are here for the second application. The outline of the procedure is that the lead officer will give us an overview of the application. The applicant will then present his case and with or without witnesses, can then be questioned, asked questions by the members present, and then by any objectors or persons making representation, which I don't believe we have for this one at the moment. Again, as we've got no objectors present, they will not be making a representation, but they have put in written representations. The applicant will then be able to make a final statement, but without introducing any new items. Once that has all been done, the committee members will be all those present apart from the committee members and the necessary officers will be put into the waiting room while we discuss the application and then come back for the decision to be given to the meeting. I think that's covered everything. There are obviously other bits and pieces more expanded on the pages 5 and 6 of the agenda. So if we now go over to application item 6 on the agenda, which is an application for a new premises license in respect of 191 High Road, Loughton. And if I can ask Handon Ibrahim to run through the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everybody. We're here today to determine the application for new premises licence under the Licensing Act 2003. The application has been made by Hunter Biscuit and Wolf Limited for a new premises licence for 191 High Road, Loughton, IG10 4LN. The application is for a membership club during the day, providing a space to work and conduct meetings for the working at home community, and will be converted to a 40-seater single screening cinema in the evening. The application was received on the 8th of October 2021, and the applicant is applying for the following licensable activities: the supply of alcohol on sales only, Monday to Sunday, 8 to 2300 hours, the provision of films, Monday to Friday, 1900 hours to 2300 hours, Saturday 0900 hours to 2300 hours, and Sunday 0900 hours to 2200 hours. The opening times of the premises will be Monday to Sunday 0800 hours to 2300 hours. The consultation has involved all responsible authorities. They have all received a copy of the application. It was also advertised at the premises and in a local newspaper. All residents and businesses within the 150-metre radius of the premises have been consulted. The authority has received a representation from both Loughton Town Council and from a local resident, which these two objections have been attached to the report. Essex Police have agreed conditions with the applicant, and these have also been attached. And conditions from my Environmental Enforcement Officer, Mr. Christopher Smith, has also agreed conditions with the applicant, and these have also been attached. The objections relate to the prevention of public nuisance. In determining this application, the subcommittee may take any of the following steps as it considers necessary: either to grant the licence as applied for, subject to conditions mentioned in the operating schedule, modified as the licensing subcommittee considers necessary, the mandatory conditions specified in the Licensing Act 2003, or to exclude from the scope of the licence any licensable activities to which the application relates, or to refuse to specify a person as the premises supervisor, or to reject the application. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we now move on to the applicant. If you would like to make a statement around your application. Thank you very much.
Okay, so what we want to sort of set up in 191 Wood Street is basically a professional environment where people who are working from home, can escape for a few hours during the day, and they can either escape their house and have a sort of a more of a quiet moment, or somewhere they can take clients or guests to discuss business, which means they don't have to discuss it in their home. During the evening, we know that this footfall will drop off, and we would like to make one of the rooms into a screening room. So we're working with a company called OmniX, who do some of the cinema screening rooms for the likes of Cruzon and Curzon and the Hospital Club, which are pretty much soundproof screening rooms. We've limited the numbers to a maximum of 40 on our application. We think in reality it's only going to be 32-seater cinema on a screening room. So we're not expecting sort of a lot of traffic coming in that's going to be disruptive. We've been working with our landlords who are Lopping Hall, who have a theatre above the premises. So it's key for them that we don't cause any nuisance with the noise as well. And we're working alongside them to making sure that they're happy, that there are no disturbances to them, as well as they have sort of different communities going in as well. Lots of family communities going into them, so they don't want to be disturbed. I think we got sort of a bit described by Loughton Council as a drinking club. I don't think that's a real fair sort of definition of us. It's more that if you bring a client in, you want to do a bit of business, you maybe want to have lunch there and have a drink with your lunch. It's quite common now to have a drink with a film in the evening. Obviously that helps our revenue side of things as well. We're not planning, it's not designed as some, sort of pub or bar. It's more of an alternative to that. It's more of a sort of a quiet evening if you want that. Do you want to add anything, Caroline?
No, other than just to reiterate what you said, during the day, it's really somewhere for the working from home community to leave home for a few hours, have decent Wi-Fi, and not be moved on or have too much background noise, to be able to get on with work. And in the evenings, we're sort of envisioning it as a sort of a nice date night type environment where you can go along, watch a nice film in a nice environment, and and have a glass of wine to go along with it. That's the idea.
Thank you very much for that. So if I can now go over to members of the panel with any questions. Councillor Kesker.
Thank you, Chairman. Several questions. The first one actually is to do with the fact I notice you're not registered for VAT. Is that because you're a new company or because you just haven't reached the threshold? Could you just explain that?
We are registered for VAT. We are a new company, but there's my VAT ticket there. I'm afraid my cat walked over it. So we are registered for VAT.
Okay, thank you very much. Shall I carry on? Lopping Hall, you say they have a theatre upstairs. Is the entrance to that completely separate from your entrance?
Yes, it's completely separate.
Okay, and last question, food. What sort of food are you envisaging that you will be serving both during the day and during the evening?
So in reality, this is something we're discussing for us, but we're not planning on cooking any food. So it will be light pre-prepared snacks, effectively. We would like to, from a business model, we don't want them to have to necessarily leave at lunchtime. So we want to provide some provision for them so we can keep them in there because obviously that's good for our revenue. But we're not having any kitchens. Right. So it'll be pre-prepared.
We want to start working with some local providers. Our method is to try and work local as much as possible. So if there's local companies that match up with us that could supply us with some local snacks, that's what we're looking at the moment.
Okay, so it's sort of microwave only.
I don't even think microwave. We're not doing hot.
No, so. Not necessarily even hot food. More kind of sort of like posh theatre type snacks, really.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Heather.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just interested. Why do you 8 o'clock in the morning to serve alcohol? Do you see a market there that people are going to come in for a business meeting and start drinking at 8 in the morning?
Very, very rarely. We think it's going to be more sort of around lunchtime, but we thought we'd cover all the hours. So if someone wants to do a sort of a champagne breakfast to celebrate a deal or something like that, we don't want to have to apply for a special license every time that happens. We want to we were trying to keep our options open. Reality, we don't see. We think it's more going to be sort of a lunchtime or if there's a meeting in the afternoon which goes successfully, they may celebrate with a drink afterwards. But we did think about, possibly at Christmas, someone might want to take someone out for a breakfast, which, often has a, Bucks Fizz or something with it. So we were keeping those options open.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing, you say it's going to be a members only club as such. So do they pre-book to come and use your facilities, or can they just wander as they are members?
As they're members, they can wander in. So the idea of making them members is that people understand the rules, because and also that people can come in without having to buy anything. So it's a place. So if you were to go to sort of a Costa Coffee to work, one, you don't know whether the space is going to be available, and secondly, you're obliged to buy a coffee, and you have no control over the noise, etc. So we're putting a set of rules about people's behaviour and respect for the other members, and it's going to be a very small hurdle to get over to be a member. So it's going to be a relatively cheap membership, but it's more so we can control people have an understanding of what they're coming in for, that this is a quiet place, that this is a work environment, and sort of and also hopefully form a bit of a local business network where they can sort of play off each other or have mutual benefits.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and therefore if people don't follow the rules, which are not going to be that tight, but more around respect for others and noise, really, if they don't follow that, then we have more rules to retract their membership and make it a nicer environment for everyone else.
Can I just follow up a bit on that one? I can see that Rosie wants to come in. But
yes. Can I just you follow up first, because it might answer my question.
Please. Sorry. You're talking about not needing to pre-book and space available, but and saying that Costa people can't guarantee, but they can't guarantee by the sounds of it that they're going to have someone to work with in your areas. And also, you're talking about some people might want to be having a champagne breakfast. The noise from that would surely disturb others who have gone in there as a quiet space to work.
So we haven't worked out all the details, but one of our aims is to have a membership app which will tell the capacity of people in there, so people can check before to see that they can make sure that they can get a space. There will be certain areas which can be pre-booked. So we've got one of the old vaults which could be hired out as a meeting room. So if you wanted to do a breakfast or something there, you are sectioned off from the rest. So you'll be in effectively one of the old bank vaults. You wouldn't be in the more what we're sort of working title calling in the library area, which is a more quieter area. So they will be sectioned off on that. Again, it's because it's something new. It was something that will evolve on time. So membership numbers will be limited, and we will see how the footfall goes on that. And if there's lots of space, then we will increase the numbers. But the idea is that people will be able to see before they attend how busy the place is, because they know that there's 20 people there, so actually there's plenty of spare spaces, or actually it's a really busy time, they might just want to stay at home and go somewhere else. And
also sort of it's a reasonably large area, so we are sort of sectioning a few different bits off that will potentially have different sort of noise tolerance level. One where people can have a quiet conversation, one where it might be slightly more open to people having a bit more WebEx type conversations and things like that, where they don't mind that much background noise. But we are controlling that. We've got views on what room's going to be used for what.
Thank you. Sorry, Rosie, do you want to?
Yes, I'm just saying that what you're applying for is a full premises license, because you will be charging people to come in. You're not applying for a club memberships license, and just want to make sure that the councillors are aware that it's a full premises license and not a club.
It's a full premises license because in the evening the cinema will be open to anyone, so anyone could buy a ticket to come in. So that's entrance then will be based on ticket as opposed to membership. So we would like them to be able to have a drink with their film.
I was just making everybody aware that it's that reason. Okay.
Thank you. Can I just ask around the films that you're intending showing? Are they going to be, obviously depending on the time of day, but family films? Are the various levels of film ratings?
Yeah. So the aim is that we're only going to be showing one film a day, a 7:30 showing. Now, obviously, the film lengths and when they end will vary, which is why we've sort of gone up to 11. The type of films depends. It will be, our initial thoughts at the moment is it's going to be one film a week and it will last for a week. because we're a small, because we'll be a small screening room, it'll be very difficult for us to get sort of the brand new releases. So a lot will be more classic films, and I think we will try and so we'll start off with a set program, and then we will try and get sort of engagement on what sort of films people want to see. The films will be based more on sort of an adult date night. So I think the idea sort of patrons will be a couple coming in for an evening on a date night. We're not focusing it on teenagers or on a market. So they're going to be big comfy sofa type chairs with a table in between which can hold you know, your drink and your popcorn or whatever. And it's mainly based on couples coming as opposed to a younger audience, like older couples.
So that being said, we have asked for extended hours for the film at the weekend, and that's primarily not that we necessarily intend on showing too many extra things at the weekend, but based on the membership, then, you know, there might be demand, for example, to show more of a children's film on a Sunday morning, for example, if we find that we don't actually get many people coming in that need to use the facilities for a workspace. So we wanted to have that option that, you know, if that's something that members want to do, bring the kids along for, you know, Sunday matinee type thing, then that's why we've asked for extended hours. But that's not necessarily in our game plan right now to show those films. It's just so we didn't have to apply again if we decided to go down that path.
Thank you. And have you tested the market at all on this?
So the move to work from home has really gone on since has a massive drive since COVID. So it's relatively new. There's been an explosion on more formal sort of work areas like the WeWorks and those over the last year. But we, both from the industries we work in, we know that a lot of people have been moved to home on certainly over the last couple of years. And even as things going back, there's certainly a big move to only go back to sort of 2 to 3 days to say like the city, for example. But we also know people around here who have, you know, gone their own way. So they become financial consultants or they become builders or over the last couple of years. And they don't necessarily want to hold meetings within their own home. They want to keep sort of work and home life separate. So I think this is more of an emerging market that is new within the last few years. Has had a big drive because of COVID.
And also we think Loughton is prime for something like this because obviously it's a commuter town. It's got a thriving high street, which is fantastic. But, you know, there's a lot of people who choose to live here because of the links to Canary Wharf or to the city. So therefore, those are the two biggest places where people still haven't fully gone back to the office and probably won't if what we're doing is, you know, our normal jobs or anything to go by. So I think there are a lot of people here that, you know, would normally, only traffic really through Loughton is to go to the station and go to work. There are a lot of people who live here for that reason. So, you know, there's people that are looking to escape home and the kids and the dogs for a couple of hours to have a quiet conversation and mingle with some other locals as well.
Thank you. You talked about a fairly modest membership fee, but will you be charging those who are wanting to use the space a per hour charge on their usage? No. The membership is, once you have the membership, that's you can come in. There's no charge per hour to sit down and work. So is that a sustainable business pattern? Yes, yeah, we believe so. Yeah, so I'm a finance director in the city, so I'm quite used to budgeting, and we've gone through this on many iterations to make sure that it works.
Many.
Yeah. Thank you. No, it was just when you were talking about a modest membership fee, that was my reason for asking that question. Yeah, I think what I'm going to say is we're not trying to be exclusive. We want it to be very attainable for people to come to. We don't want to. We're not trying to make this you know, like a Mayfair club. This is more sort of a club that is attainable for people who are, you know, commuting 1 or 2 days and working home the other days. Yeah, we wouldn't charge people to come to Costa, for example, but you know, the membership fee really just goes towards making sure that people subscribe to you know, what we want as rules, really, as in noise control, make it a nice environment for others so that you can take a work call with minimum background noise, that sort of thing. That's the objective of the membership fee. Once you're in there, you can choose to have a coffee if you want to, which obviously goes towards our revenue, but you don't have to. We envision most people probably will, but if you don't, then you don't have to. Thank you. Councillor Kesker or Councillor Heather, any other questions?
I've got a couple more, if I might, Chairman. Can I go ahead? I think
Yes,
you
sorry,
have-
yeah.
Okay. Right. Two questions. You've almost answered one already, but the first one was about soundproofing. You said that the company who organised this are used to producing soundproof venues. Can you give us a little more information on that?
Yeah, so it's a company called Omniex. The one that we're very familiar with is a screening room that they set up in something called the Hospital Club. And their screening room was just below 5-star hotel accommodations. And they sort of taken us through that and how they've done it. And we can see the facade walls with the soundproofing in and the layers on and the materials and stuff. So we've learned a whole new area we never heard about called acoustical engineering over the last year or so. They've done other screening rooms in, so a lot of the new builds these days will have, if they want to have a sort of niche, they have a screening room in, and they deal with a lot of those. So within apartment blocks, they build screening rooms. So they do both the acoustic engineering in the way that it's making sure the sound is correct and that it sounds good in the cinema, but also to make sure that, you know, even one wall, you know, one room along, you can't hear the cinema unless the door's wide open. So that's their job. Their parent company recently did the premiere for the new Bond film. So they're quite a, you know, they're not a small company. They're quite a well established in this area.
Okay, thank you very much. My other question, which you've partially answered already, I was going to say, what is your background and your experience in this sort of venture? But you've already said you're in finance. Have you ever tried anything like this before?
Yeah, so we both, our main jobs are both in finance. So I work in insurance, Caroline works in sort of the banking sector. We both have had obviously changed over the last few years when it's been much more work from home environment. When it comes to separate adventures, we used to live in Walthamstow, and in Walthamstow we set up sort of a charity venture of a free breakfast cafe that's been running now since 2008. Obviously, it's 2018, and that was a completely new model where everyone says, well, you know, this is new. It's never going to work, and we've had massive success over COVID and what we've done there, and it's become, you know, we never advertised and never did anything that's received recognition worldwide, really, for what it's achieved on new ways of doing things. So we do like to look at new ways of solving problems. We've not gone down this route before, but we have got a good track record of making things work.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, please, Chair. Yep.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Just a couple of questions. On page 38, you've got a hello? Yeah, sorry, page 38, you've got a proposed ground floor plan. All I can see is entrance marks. Where are the actual exits, emergency type for the use of?
So there's two exits. So I don't know if you know the old HSBC, what used to be the HSBC on the High Road. Okay, so the building is on effectively on a corner of a Station Approach and the High Street, and there's an entrance on either side. So there's an exit on the entrance and exit on the High Street side, and also one on the Station Approach side. So there's two exits.
So we're envisioning the main entrance to be on the Station Road side, because that's where we can sort of have a bit more of a lobby area to control things. Where you see the back of the screening room, that's actually the High Street side. So we're not really planning on anyone coming in and out of there during the day, but we'll be using that as an emergency exit if needs be for during the day. But the main entrance is going to be on the Station Road side of the building.
Yeah, no, the reason I ask is you said you want it as a 40-seater, and the regulations obviously cover how many people you are allowed on the premises because of a means of escape.
Yeah.
So, and that's a double leaf door at the back, is it, or single leaf?
not sure what that means,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Sorry, is it one door or a double door that opens out?
Oh, it's one door, yeah.
Just a single door. Okay. Well, thank you. And the other one was smoking. Is there a smoking area, or will they go out into the high street?
There's no internal smoking areas. We don't have don't have external space for it. It's not. We don't see this as like the pub environment where the smoking will go hand in hand as such. We did read one of the things that we're suddenly going to get a massive 40 people coming out from the cinema dying for a cigarette. I don't think that's true these days, to be honest. We're in the same vicinity of there's Loughton Social Club just opposite, there's Nando's, there's the Standard, there's Hollybush, so all within sort of 20 meters of us.
I think, sorry, we don't envision too many people going outside to smoke because we don't have that many people physically that are going to be in there in the first place. Also, secondly, what we're planning on doing is we're having someone that's going to be on the door as such, not a doorman, but more of a meter and greeter to make sure that people are members that are coming in, and that's going to be their job, is to basically welcome people. So, the fact that they're going to be on the door means that if people do suddenly start loitering, then they can move them along nicely. That's the plan. So, as I said, it's more for helping, making sure there isn't any nuisance immediately outside the building. They can move them along as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just following on from, you mentioned somebody meeting and greeting. What sort of staffing levels do you expect to have? Because obviously if you're having a bar there, then you need somebody serving at that and also handing over food and other things.
Yeah, so again, I think this will evolve as it goes along. So on opening, we're going to have 3 people there plus us 2. And then so there'll be five people, and then we'll adjust staffing levels as and see we need them. So we know that we need someone sort of on the door to check people in or out and take their coats, etc. 1 person preparing any drinks and 1 person serving. And initially we're going to be floating around just to see what numbers are needed, and then we will adapt those as they go. So yeah. 5 initially, but we will see as it progresses.
And I think we're looking to bring in sort of more part-time staff as required in the evenings, aren't we, really, for the cinema, because that's going to be the peak of people coming and going, even though it's not a huge number. We will probably be looking for people that can just do evening hours, for example, rather than work during the day.
Thank you. And just looking at the Loughton Town Council's objection, one of the things that they are referencing is that your planning application for change of use in the design and access statement is only looking at Sunday. Sorry, I'm just looking at, the time stated that films would be ending in that design was 9:30 p.m.
No, I think that was Loughton Council's proposal. Reality, we want to start the film at 7:30. So it depends on the length of the film. Films can, so that's why we put to 11, and we don't want to get to 9:30 and start having to turf people out. As the titles are finishing, so that was their proposal for 9:30, not ours. We said, we want to show 1 film starting at 7:30, and we want to, close the doors, lock up at 11. That's our sort of proposal.
Yeah, so for the evening, what we're really, the view is people will come on a nice date night sort of thing in the evening, come along, watch a film, maybe have a bottle of wine, not necessarily need to go and hurry off at the end. As soon as the film finishes, they can stay and finish their drink, maybe grab another one before they go home. That's the idea. But again, it's the controlled numbers. It shouldn't be, we don't see it being a big
massive
event. No.
So you can confirm that the design and access statement that you submitted with your planning application does not say that your films will end at 9:30.
We confirm, yeah. We wouldn't have put that. No. We read the Loughton objection, and my understanding is it was their alternative was to end it at 9:30, and that was not our proposal.
No, it's just the wording in their objection suggests that it was. Rosie, did you want to come in on that?
Yes, I just want to remind you that a planning issue is not something you take into account here.
No.
All right. Thank you.
I realise that. Thank you. And obviously, this is probably a question more for the licensing officer, but were the fire brigade consulted on this application?
Yes, everyone was consulted, including the fire brigade, yes.
And they had no response to it?
No.
No, thank you.
We received a response from Fire Brigade and saying that they were content. So we have a letter somewhere from them. So they did review this.
Thank you.
Any objections? No, the only objections were the two that's been attached.
Thank you. And have you got any other comments or questions that you want to ask from the licensing department?
No, currently no.
Thank you. I've got nothing else from either Councillor Heather or Councillor Kesker. Oh, sorry, Rosie, yes.
Yeah, I just want to ask one thing. I know you said that in the mornings only club members can come to the thing. What happened if somebody who's not a club member wanted to use your space? Can they pay to use your space? Or it's just solely for club members in the morning?
Well, the plan at the moment is no, you'd have to be a member to join. So the first month or so to get people in, it's going to be pretty much you can turn up and get a day membership or whatever, so we can get people through the door and get people interested. But long term, we want it to so it'd be relatively easy to join, but it's not for. We don't really want to sort of be registering people for one-offs and stuff like that. You've got a whole sort of, if we're taking people's data for day memberships and stuff, you've got a whole GDPR things to consider and a lot of admin, which we're not planning. We want it to be a sort of a consistent community who understands sort of the environment they're coming into.
Yeah, so they can either be a member, they can either join as a member if there is still space as membership, or alternatively we have. What we've just discussed is members can bring guests, but obviously they are responsible for their guests, following the rules while they are there, and they have to be on site with them. So if they are a guest of a member, they can come in, but if they're not, then no, they won't be able to come in unless they become a member.
And membership will be working on a monthly rolling basis. So if someone says not sort of like a 12-month penalty for leaving this, if you don't want to carry on, then you sort of send your notice, and then the following month that's fine. There's no sort of annual tie-ins and stuff. So we're setting the hurdles relatively low on membership.
Okay. In that case, can I just, before you make your final statement, we're obviously going to go into private session to discuss this application. What would your thoughts be if we were to, in our discussions, think that 8 a.m. is too early to have a starting for a license? What would you see as being, if we were to consider that one, an alternative that you would put forward?
Well, we wouldn't see that. I mean, that wouldn't be the end of the world for us, because we reckon that's probably a relatively small market and probably more of a seasonal one anyway. It's probably more around the sort of Christmas period where people would want to do that. We would like to start allowed to serve them with lunches. So I think if someone wanted an early lunch or something like that, then we wouldn't want it any really later than 11, say. I don't know.
That's not unreasonable, no.
Yeah.
I think, if we need to do a temporary license for a period of time or something for an event, then we can apply for one. I think we were just looking to try and give ourselves options so that we didn't have to necessarily do that every time. But realistically, we don't think that will be very often anyway. So
no,
11 would be fine, I think. Ideally 8 to give us options, but if not, then we would accept 11.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Right, so I think if we have no more questions from anybody, and I'm not seeing any indication, if you would like just to make a final rounding up statement.
I haven't prepared one, but I'll give it a go. So
you don't have to, but yeah.
Well, we believe what we're doing is actually going to sort of add to Loughton. The reason we're doing it is, we've lived in Loughton for 8 years now, and everywhere we live, we like to build something which adds to the community. And we think this is the right thing for the area. We think that with the way that the environment's going, a lot more people will be having this hybrid working conditions where they're going to be working both from home and from the office. And we also know a lot of people have been struggling work from home, both through isolation and also just being able to get on and do their work. So we think this is the sort of the prime location, the prime time to do it. We've worked closely with our landlords who have been very positive on this before we had to present to them what we were doing. And they as well believe that it would make a benefit to the area of making it sort of an alternative evening out as well, with a screening room there. We don't think the numbers are going to be excessive in any way, shape or form, or it's going to cause any disruptions. We've done this quite professionally on who we've consulted and the equipment we're getting, and we're not taking a chance on this. And we know that we can do this with minimal disruption and be more of a benefit to the community. I'll leave it there.
Well done. Well added.
Thank you very much. So if I can ask the officer to remove all to the waiting room apart from obviously the 3 councillors who will be looking at this application and other necessary
I'm doing that, Chair.
Thank you.
Steve, can you stop the webcast?
Right, thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. We have discussed this application and reached a decision. I will read out the decision sheet, which I have to do in this session. So this is for a licensing application for a premises license for 191 High Road, Loughton, Essex, IG10 4LN. The licensing subcommittee considers that the application satisfies the necessary requirements in order to be considered, as it is on the prescribed form, it has been advertised and relevant notifications given. The licensing subcommittee has taken into account the relevant written and oral representations, the 4 licensing objectives and the council's licensing policy and the Secretary of State's guidance. During our deliberations in private session, our advisory officers gave us no advice. The decision of this licensing subcommittee is that the application for a premises license in respect of 191 High Road, Loughton, Essex, IG10 4LN be granted on the following basis, subject to the following conditions, which in the opinion of this licensing subcommittee are reasonable, proportionate, and in the public interest for the promotion of the licensing objectives. 1, the conditions which are consistent with the operating schedule as varied by the conditions agreed with the licensing officer of Essex Police on pages 45 and 46 of the agenda, and with the senior environmental enforcement officer from the community resilience team of Epping Forest District Council on page 51 of the agenda, save that the condition relating to supply of alcohol on sales on pages 25 and 26 of the agenda be amended to read Monday to Sunday, 10:30 a.m. to 2300 hours. The reason for amending is to prevent a nuisance being caused within the working environment. Members and patrons should also be asked when leaving the building to do so quietly in respect of rights of people nearby, thus preventing a public nuisance arising. Number 2, we are also attaching the mandatory conditions contained in sections 19 to 21 of the Licensing Act 2003. The applicant is reminded that if the conditions of the license are breached, the matter can be reviewed by the licensing subcommittee and the premises license can be looked at again. The applicants and persons who made relevant representations are reminded of their right to appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days of the date of the written notification of this decision. And this will be signed by myself as Chairman, Councillor Mary Sartin, dated the 7th of December 2021. And I believe I'm right in saying that the applicants will receive a printed copy of this decision sheet through the post. So thank you all very much for your attendance this morning. And Mr. Wilson and Ms. Denton are very welcome to leave at this stage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, and we now move on to the second application before us this morning, which is an application to vary an existing premises license for the Merry Fiddlers at 4 Fiddlers Hamlet, Epping. And this application is on pages 57 to 96 of the agenda. I will just quickly remind those, because we may have people present now who were not present initially, of the order in which this application will be taken forward. Again, for this application, I as chairman will be hearing the application along with Councillor Paul Kesker and Councillor Ian Hadley. Councillor Stephen Heather will remain in the meeting and will be able to pick up if one of us loses our internet connections. Can I, before we go any further, perhaps just ask those who are not speaking at any time to put themselves on mute and to put yourself on to speak when you are speaking. Thank you. So we have also present this morning from our licensing department for this application, Debbie Houghton. Also in the meeting, we have the licensing manager, I believe he's still present, David King, and officers, Rose Ferreira, our legal advisor, and also still within the meeting from licensing, Handon Ibrahim. And from Democratic Services, we have Laura Kerman, who is acting as host for this meeting, and Rebecca Perrin, both of whom are from Democratic Services. If I could ask the applicant if you could just introduce yourself first. Or is it the applicant's solicitor? I'm not sure.
Yes, so my name's Karen Cochran. I'm here representing the applicant this morning from Flint Bishop Solicitors. So I'm up in Derby in the snow. So, so it's probably good that we're on Zoom.
Yes, it has its advantages.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, and I believe we have 2 objectors from Epping Town Council present. If you could just introduce yourselves.
Morning, Councillor Nigel Levy, representing Epping Town Council.
And do we have Geraldine Fallis or Beverly Rumsey present?
Not present.
And I don't think they will be. I will be the sole representative for the Town Council.
Thank you very much. So the order in which we will go through this application
Excuse me, Chair,
is
there is also somebody called Thomas James here who joined late.
Sorry, can you just introduce yourself, Mr. James, and say where you're from and why you're present?
Hi, Thomas James, public at Merry Fiddlers. Sorry about earlier. I was using a Mac and it wouldn't allow me to speak to you guys, so I had to change computers in the interim.
Right. So will you be speaking on behalf of your application as well, or will it just be through your solicitor?
I'm happy to speak if you need me to speak. Not a problem.
Thank you. So if I can then just run through the order in which we will be doing things, I'll ask the licensing officer to introduce the application. I will then ask the applicant or the applicant's agent to speak in support of the application, and then have the opportunity for members of the committee to ask any questions, but also for objectors to ask any questions as well. We'll then turn to the objector, who I think in this case is just Nigel Avey, who is here. I should probably clarify this, that you are here, Councillor Avey, as a member of Epping Town Council.
That's correct. I'm here as chairman of the Planning and General Purposes Committee for Epping Town Council.
Thank you. So an opportunity to put forward the objectors' reasons for objecting. Questions are then from the committee, and also the applicant can put questions to the objector. I've missed out one step, that the objector can also ask questions of the applicant after they put forward their reasons for the application. Then questions from the committee. After that, final opportunity for the objector to make any final statement without bringing in any new issues, and then for the applicant to make a final statement, but again without bringing in any new issues. At that point, we as a committee will be left in the Zoom, but others will put into the waiting room while we go into closed session to discuss the application. So if I can go to Debbie Houghton as our licensing officer to outline the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I do apologise for being croaky this morning, but I have bronchitis at the moment, so you'll just have to bear with me. I'm really just apologise for my croaky voice. This application today is for a variation of an existing premises licence under the Licensing Act. An application has been made by Punch Partnerships, PTL Limited, premises licence holder, for a variation to the existing premises licence at the above premises, the Merry Fiddlers. The authority received the application on the 22nd of October 2021. The application sets out the varied licensing activities applied for and the times, the times requested. You have each this morning received a copy of the current premises licence that was emailed to you, because it was discovered this morning that the copy attached to the report is not the most recent licence. So that was forwarded on to everybody this morning. The applicant is requesting to add films and late night refreshment. The films they're requesting are for Monday to Sunday, 12 o'clock midday to 2300 hours. And for late night refreshment, Monday to Saturday, 2300 hours to 12:30 a.m. in the morning. We did a consultation within the 150 metre radius of the premises. There were 23 addresses that a consultation letter was sent to. We received no representations from residents within that 150 metres. The responsible authorities have all received a copy of the application, and it was properly advertised at the premises and in the local newspaper, which the Blue Notice and the newspaper are attached to this report. Sorry. The authority has received one representation, and that was from Epping Town Council, and their representation relates mainly to the prevention of public nuisance. There were no other representations received. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So if I can now go to Karen Cochran to put before us the applicant's the reason for the application.
Thank you. Thanks very much. So as Debbie's just explained, we're here to apply to vary the current licence for the Merry Fiddlers, asking for the flexibility for films to be permitted to be shown at the site both during the week and at weekends, and also for late night refreshment to be permitted until closing time. So for clarification, we've not asked for any other changes to the licence. Everything else is as per the current premises licence that you have. The site's got a large external area which is already licensed for regulated entertainment such as live and recorded music. The premises aren't proposing to use the area for films every day of the year. They'd just like the flexibility to show them. Showing films outside in this country is very weather dependent. And so for them to apply for a temporary event notice, you have to give 10 working days notice. Doing that, or just being able to accurately forecast the weather 2 weeks ahead is nigh on impossible. And so adding it to the licence will then give them the flexibility to show films when weather permits. The pub really does need to encourage people to visit during the week, not just at weekends. They'd like to think the pub might already be busy at the weekend, and are hoping to provide a reason at other times of the week for customers to visit, to come along and watch a film. The times requested would allow a film on a warm late summer's evening to start at dusk. When you're showing a film outside, the images are just not visible if it's bright sunshine. And so customers will want to watch the beginning of the film, and if it's bright sunshine, they won't be able to see the images. We'd like the opportunity to show films on specific evenings, weather permitting, such as Halloween and Valentine's Day. And of course, those days won't always fall on a Friday and a Saturday. That's just the way it is. To test the water, my client has shown films using temporary event notices outside on 2 occasions recently. These were on a Saturday and a Sunday night. He ensured his neighbours were aware of what his plans were, and he would propose to carry on doing that. And he personally visited those closest to check that there was no problem. As Debbie has just explained, no objections were received so far as we were aware. Certainly we had no objection to the temporary event notice that was applied for. I think it's heartening to note that no representations have been submitted from the responsible authorities. I see them as the experts in noise nuisance and crime and disorder, obviously public safety and child protection as well. It's also really positive for the pub that none of those living nearby submitted a representation. Although I'm not sure it's that surprising. I think people tend to be quiet whilst they're watching a film. And so I think the key is to ensure that the sound is set at a sensible volume. And thereafter, I can't imagine there will be a problem if people are sitting and watching a film. Having already held 2 film events, I think the pub has clearly been able to show that there won't be an impact on the licensing objectives. Paragraph 9.49 of the statutory guidance, which we all are aware of, it clearly states that your determination needs to be evidence-based. And I think because of the temporary event notices, it's safe to say there's clear evidence that films can be shown whilst promoting the licensing objectives. You'll be aware that the Licensing Act is a permissive piece of legislation. It can only be this because there's the ability to review a licence should issues arise in the future. And I think having tested the water and already had films at the site without a problem, I would suggest to you that it is safe to conclude that there is evidence to approve this application and allow films to be shown. We've also asked for the flexibility to provide late night refreshment until the premises' current closing time. So to be absolutely clear, we're not asking for any increase to the hours at all, but you will appreciate that to serve a coffee after 11 o'clock at night requires late night refreshment to be on the licence. Not everyone wants to carry on drinking alcohol or cold drinks late at night. I am regularly a designated driver. My husband tends to drive us 2 places and I seem to always drive us back. And so it's not unusual for me to ask for a hot drink while he finishes his pint. And currently on the licence, after 11 o'clock, that wouldn't be permitted. I add late night refreshment onto licences routinely just as an add-on. That's what it is here. The purpose of the application is to be able to show films, but I noted late night refreshment wasn't there. I normally add it on because it's just not contentious. And again, I think it is worth noting that none of the responsible authorities or local residents have expressed any concerns, and I think it's basically because I don't think anybody sees an issue with somebody having a cup of tea after 11 o'clock. So had we been asking for later hours or longer hours, then I appreciate that might have been an issue, but that's not the case here. So basically, that's our case. I'd ask you to consider the evidence that's available, and if you're minded, ask you to approve the application with the comfort of knowing that obviously if there's an issue in the future, we can swiftly be brought back before you to reconsider the matter again. So that's our application. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Mr. James, do you want to add anything to that, or do you feel it's been sufficiently covered by your legal advisor?
No, I feel it's been quite sufficiently covered. Thanks, Karen. Well done. But I'm happy to answer any further questions. It's quite a simple application, I feel, as Karen's mentioned. So thank you. Nice to hear your thoughts.
Thank you very much. So, members, any comments or questions? Councillor Kesker?
No, I haven't.
Sorry, apologies. Can I just go to Rosie Ferreira first?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, on the application, you have about mending the opening times. And you didn't mention that. And you have Monday from 0700 to 30 minutes past midnight, Tuesday to Saturday from 8 o'clock to 30 minutes past midnight, and Sunday from 8 o'clock to 2300 hours. The present license has Sunday 8 o'clock to 2300 hours, but they have Monday to Saturday from 700 hours to 03 to 30 minutes past midnight. Is the agenda wrong then? Where you have, if somebody looks at the licensing agenda, you have Tuesday to Saturday 800 hours.
Sorry, yes, I think there's an error on my part. There's been some confusion over the most recent license. There were conditions missed off and we were going to tidy the license up. If you look at my application, it clearly says in box L, hours premises open to the public as per the current license. And I had thought those were the hours, but I'm wrong. But yeah. So my application is not to change the hours at all. You fill box L in because the application on page 3 says on a variation, in all cases, complete boxes K, L and M. So I filled in L, not because I wanted to change anything, just because the application process. And I've said as per the current license, I'm not asking to change that at all. And I think it may be my error. The most recent license I've got actually has the old opening hours on it.
I've got a light. We were sent around a license today, right?
Yes, today.
That says Sunday 800 hours to 2300 hours, and Monday to Saturday 700 hours till 30 minutes past midnight. So the because you submitted it here, we'll just have the L will have to be changed. Has to be ignored, and you go back to those hours. You don't want to change the opening hours.
We've got a number of variations of this license, and I think that I filled that in wrongly because I believe that's what we've got. But I think it's helpful to you. I've clearly said as per the current license. We're not applying to change any hours at all. We just want to go films. Thank you.
Can I suggest, is it acceptable to remove the hours that are written under L and just take it as reading as per the current license?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
That'd be great.
Right, thank you very much for that. So now, Councillor Kesker, you want to...
Yeah, I have no questions.
All right. That was easy. Councillor Hadley.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, if I can just recap, it seems that the, our light refreshments currently served up to 12:30. It would appear so, but you can just recap on that.
It's not like
The license that I have doesn't have any late night refreshment on it at all. So we're just asking to add that on. It's routinely on most most people's premises license have late night refreshment. Just for that, if they do meals and somebody wants a coffee after 11 o'clock, it has to be on the license. And the license, well, again, the license that I printed off that I had most recently doesn't have late night refreshment on it. So that's the reason for the application.
Sorry. So at this point in time, there is no late night refreshment part of this license. This is a new addition to it.
Yes. Yeah, if you look on the front sheet, it just says the license allows live music, recorded music, and sale of alcohol. So we're adding films and late night refreshment to the license.
And which would also apply to the pub, not just the film. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Just one other one. The films outside, are they under a canopy or in the open air? Or?
That's probably one for Tom to answer.
Mr. James?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's in the open air, hence the fact of needing to be able to have the flexibility to be able to cancel or show a film day by day. The latter film we showed this year, which was on Halloween, the weather wasn't great and maybe only 50 to 60% of the sold tickets attended. And I offered a full refund to anyone who didn't attend because of the weather. But I still have to go through the process of applying for a temporary event notice at the moment in order to be able to do so. So the tickets were always sold for both films that I've done so far, with the option, should it not permit us, the weather not permit us to be able to show the film, that everyone would be refunded should they wish, or they would be reissued a ticket for the film to be shown at a later date. This just isn't viable to be able to do with a temporary event notice. That's the reason really for the application. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'm happy with that. Just one other question then, regarding parking. You look like you've got a pretty big car park there. Presumably you expect more cars to be parked there. And is your capacity good enough for that?
Well, so what I'm trying to do, I mean, as a pub in this day and age, we're not doing well. It's difficult time for most, and to be able to show films at times when we're not busy is really the plan. So, like on a Saturday or a Sunday where we have some good trade, great. But maybe on a Wednesday or a Thursday where we're not so busy, to be able to show a film at 7 to 10 p.m. Would hopefully draw a different kind of crowd. So the car park wouldn't be full with all the standard patrons. It would be full with patrons looking to watch a film rather than come and maybe have dinner that evening. But the car park can fit probably in excess of 50, 60 cars, and we're only looking to sell 40 tickets. Most people don't come alone.
Okay, just one other question then in that case. Can the films be watched from inside the cars?
Not where the screen is currently.
Okay, so it's not a drive-in movie then?
No, it's certainly not. No, it's a sit in the pub's garden. Is where the viewing point is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just around capacity again, obviously outdoor space is more flexible on numbers in a sense. Having the capacity inside to cope with the number of tickets that you would have sold for an outside viewing if it is having to be taken inside.
Sorry, man, I don't quite understand the question. If you mind.
Well, if you were showing the film outside, you've got open air space, which will perhaps allow you a greater capacity. Presumably the capacity inside will be limited to that space. Would that reduce the number of tickets that you could use if it is inside?
I won't be showing the film inside. It's just not an option for me. It won't happen.
Sorry, I understood that this was an application to allow films to be inside if the weather wasn't suitable for an outdoor showing. Perhaps
No.
Karen, do you want to come in on this?
Yeah, if I can explain. So the premises licensing plan for the Merry Fiddlers is unusual. Routinely, you would have licensable activities inside and just consumption of alcohol outside. So the red line would just be around the pub. But an application was made some years ago now because Tom was doing various events outside in marquees. And so their red line isn't just around the building, it's around the whole of the site. And so in theory, films would be allowed both inside and outside, because films would be allowed in the red lined area, which includes both the building and the field. But my understanding, so in the future, or perhaps if there was, you know, if a new operator came in and they wanted to show films, then they would be able to. But as I understand it, Tom's, the whole, his pub is busy inside. He's got dining and all the rest of it. So his plan to bring people in at the weekends and during the week to watch a film is outside. And if the weather's not great, then they'll just come back another day. That's the reason for not applying for temporary event notices. A, the weather. If the weather's not great, they won't be coming in to watch the film. They'll be coming back another day. And the difficulty with organising it that way through temporary event notices is you then never know when the weather is going to be good enough, and you have to apply for your temporary event notices 10 working days in advance. So no, I mean, to be clear, the application is for films to be allowed within the licensable area, which includes the outside and the inside. But Tom's proposal to operate is not to have films inside, because he's got other things going on inside his pub. Is that clear? Sorry.
Thank you for that clarification. I certainly think that we were listening to what was being presented earlier, of the understanding that it was so that a film could still be shown regardless of the weather, and that showing would therefore move into an inside area. So the reality is that the reason for applying for this license is to take away the necessity to apply for TENS notices, which then maybe have to be cancelled their function because of the weather.
Yes, right. That's so he applied for, it was Halloween, so he had a Friday and a Saturday night, and as he's already explained, the weather wasn't great on the Sunday, and so he just wants the ability to then say to people, but you know, we're going to show films again, you know, on Thursday, rather, and he wouldn't be able to do that with a temporary event notice. For a late temporary event notice, you have to give at least 5 clear working days notice. You're only allowed a couple of late temporary event notices. Standard temporary event notice, you have to give 2 weeks notice. Yeah. And so it's logistically very complicated. So the reason for the application is to give him the flexibility to show films when the weather permits.
Thank you very much for that.
Chairman,
yeah,
could I just come in from my knowledge of this pub? There isn't anywhere suitable inside that you could show films.
Thank you. Councillor Hadley, have you got anything else that you wish to raise?
Nothing at all, Chair.
In that case, if I can go to Councillor Avey, have you got any questions for the applicants?
Thank you, Chairman. No, not really. It's been interesting listening to the dialogue between yourselves and the applicant solicitor and the license holder, because I think the town council didn't have a lot of this information and was somewhat confused about what was being applied for and why. So it has been helpful, but unfortunately that wasn't in the hands of the Planning and General Purposes Committee when we met several weeks ago. But I will now rely on my representations when we come to it. No further
Thank you
questions.
very much. Thank you. Well, I think that's where we now move on to. So, Councillor Avey, if you would like to put forward your representation.
Absolutely. I would say I don't want to come across, or the town council wouldn't want to come across as a Scrooge-like character here. given the season. And we have really put in a partial objection. I'll come on to that. We considered the variation application, the context, again, that the Merry Fiddlers is a public house situated in a small hamlet in a rural setting outside of Epping. We would say that the Merry Fiddlers already has a generous license conditions in terms of licensing hours regarding the sale of alcohol, provision of live recorded music in and outside. The question we considered was why the Merry Fiddlers wishes to operate as a 7-day cinema. Now, some of that's been addressed by the applicant's solicitor and by the license holder, that it isn't intending to set itself up as a 7-day cinema. However, we would say that this may lead to an increase in traffic movement and noise to the inconvenience of local residents in this quiet rural habitat. We also have some highway issues, which is not for you to consider, but I would mention them in context. I know this is a partial objection. Again, we're not adverse to things like this happening, but I put it in context of a rural pub in a rural setting. And we would ask the license extension is restricted in that the license would only apply to showing films on Friday and Saturday only. And late night refreshment could be provided until 12 midnight only on Friday on Saturday, not 12:30. I hope the committee may take this objection into account. You've heard other evidence, but I think we would say, the Town Council, that what we've objected to, the partial objection and the restriction, is sensible in the context of this particular premises. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kesker or Councillor Hadley, any questions for the council objection?
No, I have none.
Councillor Hadley? No. Thank you very much. And the applicants, any questions for Councillor Avey?
If I could just clarify, really, being as the pub is already open until later, why it is that somebody having a cup of tea or a coffee he thinks is going to have an impact on any of the licensing objectives. I appreciate if the pub was going to be opening later, but I just wondered what it was during the week that meant that somebody having a coffee was going to cause an issue, but having a coffee on a Friday night, it wasn't going to be an issue. I'm just trying to understand what the issue might be, and so that we can perhaps, sort of allay those concerns.
Well, I thank you for that. And I would say that obviously these objections were put in writing into the district council before we didn't have any of the evidence we heard today about what refreshments were and when and why. And therefore, I would say I was speaking to our written objection rather than from a common sense point of view of what I've heard this morning. One thing I would say, and given we have had other license applications from these premises, if there are further variations after this, I would suggest talking to the Town Council Planning Committee might be helpful to iron out any misunderstandings that may arise before we get to this stage, would be helpful.
Thank you very much for that. So if we got any input from our licensing officer, Debbie Houghton, at this stage? No. And Rose Ferreira?
I just want to know what was the date of that current license? Does the license have a date on it, Debbie? So that we don't get mixed up with other licenses.
The full variation, the last full variation that was done was December 18, and then they did a DPS variation back in 2019. But that is the one you've been sent today is the most current license.
And you don't know when that was granted?
In December 18.
I just want to know, that's all.
Oh, and then, sorry, 2019, when a DPS variation was put in.
Was done.
come off to put his bed, Royal.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to know so that we don't get a mixture because, as you know, we want to say the amendment to the opening times on in L on page N is to be ignored, is to be
the last full variation.
I revert back to the current premises license, which I didn't know what date that was. That's all.
Full variation was completed and granted in December 2018.
Current premises license.
Thank you very much for that. So now we give Councillor Adey, if you wish to make any final statement, but without bringing any new matters into it.
No, Madam Chairman, I'm happy to rest there.
Thank you very much. And Karen Cochrane, similarly.
Yeah, I think there's very little else that we can add. I think it's been helpful to have carried out the temporary event notices because that then does give us the evidence that we can do this. I think during the week is going to probably be, I wasn't aware there were particular issues with parking, and I know that's nothing to do with licensing, but perhaps on a quieter night it would be better rather than at the weekend. And I just think it's heartening that everybody in the area has had more than adequate opportunity if they've got an issue. I know Tom's been knocking on doors to talk to people. He gets on with his neighbours, and I think it's useful for you to appreciate that the local residents are not objecting on this occasion. So, and of course, if there's a problem in the future, we can be back before you under a review, and I expect you'd give us short shrift. So yes, I would ask you to look at our evidence and hopefully approve our application. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for that. So I think if we've got no other additions that we want to bring in at this stage, if I can ask the those who are not part of the decision-making group to be put into the waiting room. Thank you very much.
Everybody's joined the meeting, Chair.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience while we considered your application. I now need to read out the formal notice relating to this application. So this was the decision sheet for an application to vary a premises license under the Licensing Act 2003. The premises address the Merry Fiddlers, 4 Fiddlers Hamlet, Epping, Essex, CM 167PY. The licensing subcommittee considered an application for a variation of the premises license to allow the provision of films Monday to Sunday, 1200 hours to 2300 hours, late night refreshment Monday to Saturday, 2300 hours to 00:30 AM, and the amendment to the opening times in L on page 74 is to be deleted and revert back to the opening times in the current premises license as agreed on the 12th of December 2018. And the representation made by Epping Town Council relating to the prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance. The licensing subcommittee also noted that in respect of this application to vary the premises license, no representations were received from the police and or the environmental services or residents living within 150 metres of the premises. The licensing subcommittee has taken into account the relevant written and oral representations, the 4 licensing objectives, and the council's licensing policy and the Secretary of State's guidance. During our deliberations in private session, our advisory officers gave us the following advice: that each case must be decided on its own merits. The decision of this licensing subcommittee application to vary the premises license in respect of the Merry Fiddlers, 4 Fiddlers at Hamlet, Epping, Essex, CM 167PY be granted on the following basis, subject to the existing conditions on the license, with the variations as set out below. The provision of films Monday to Sunday, 1200 hours to 2300 hours, late night refreshment Monday to Saturday, 2300 hours to 00:30 a.m. The licensing subcommittee, having considered the application to vary the premises license, the representation made, the existing conditions on the premises license, is of the opinion that the application would not have an adverse effect on the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives, namely prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, and protection of children from harm, and the existing conditions will still uphold the 4 said objectives. The applicant is also reminded that if the conditions of the license are breached, the matter can be reviewed by the licensing subcommittee and the premises license can be looked at again. The applicant and persons who made relevant representations are reminded of their right to appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days of the date of the written notification of this decision. And that will be signed by myself as chairman and dated today's date, the 7th of December 2021. Thank you very much. That application is granted and the applicants will receive a printed written copy of the application once it has been formally signed, which should be later on today. So thank you all very much for your attendance. I don't believe we have any other business, but I will just check.
Thank you very much. Just one thing before we go, can we just please clarify the opening hours? Because it's been a bit confusing for everyone. If we can just write down, just so I can jot down from Monday to Sunday, that would be fantastic.
I could read it out for you from the premise, the license that they sent us today, and it was what was done. Opening hours Monday to Saturday, 0700 to 00:30 a.m. Sunday 0800 to 2300 hours.
Thank you very much.
It's actually on the current license that the licensing officer sent around today. Did you get it?
I got it. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm before we all go away that's what will be on the new license, so everyone now knows. So
those won't be changed. Those hours won't be changed. It'll still be as of the 12th of December 2018.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Debbie, is that correct?
Okay, thank you very much for that. So if we have no other business, then I thank you all for your attendance.
Thank you very much. That's great.
Thank you all for your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Councillor Sark.